You know that feeling when you scroll through endless photos of glossy patio sets, all perfectly staged, only to end up with a table that wobbles in the wind or chairs that melt into the sun after the first summer. I've been there, and it's why I spend a little extra time digging into the real-world details before I click Add to Cart. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Today I'm talking about a 17-piece garden dining set from vidaXL that promises to seat a big crowd, look sleek in black poly rattan, and survive the elements. If you're on the fence because you've seen a dozen perfect sets that turned out to be disappointments, keep listening. I'll break down exactly what you'll get when you pull this one out of the box and set it up on your patio. First off, let's talk about the kind of outdoor space where a set like this makes sense. I've got a medium-sized backyard that hosts family barbecues and a few weekend dinner parties. The main pain point for me has always been finding a table large enough for a dozen plates without having to crowd people, yet still compact enough to tuck away when the weather turns. The vidaXL set arrives with a rectangular acacia wood table that's generous enough to comfortably fit 12 people. The spec sheet calls it a 16-person set, but in practice you'll find that the table length tops out around 9 feet, which is ideal for a 12-person spread if you want a little breathing room. The extra 2 seats come from 2 high stools that slide in under the table for cocktail-style guests. If you're the type who regularly entertains a crew of 8 to 12, this size hits the sweet spot. Now, the material story. The frame is steel, which is a good sign for stability, and the seating is wrapped in black poly rattan. Poly rattan is essentially a synthetic weave that mimics the look of natural wicker but doesn't splinter when a storm rolls through. In my experience, the biggest complaint with cheaper rattan-style sets is that they become brittle after a season of UV exposure. The vidaXL version advertises weatherproof poly rattan, and after a couple of weeks of sunny afternoons the fabric stayed supple, showing no cracking or fading. That's a practical win. You can leave it out year-round without the dread of a sudden tear. Cushions are another big deal for outdoor comfort. This set includes removable cushions for each chair and each stool. They're made of a quick-dry foam that you can pop out and hose down. I tested this by spilling a bit of sauce during a backyard pizza night. A quick rinse and the cushion dried in under an hour. No mildew smell. The trade-off is that the cushions are relatively thin. They're more about adding a touch of softness rather than full-on lounge comfort. If you're looking for a sofa-like experience, you'll probably want to add extra padding later. But for standard dining, they're perfectly adequate. Assembly is where a lot of sets fall apart. The vidaXL package breaks down into 17 pieces, and the instructions are fairly straightforward, with each leg labeled and a handful of Allen wrenches included. Expect to spend about an hour with 2 people if you're handy, or a little longer if you're doing it solo. The biggest headache I ran into was aligning the steel brackets on the table legs. The holes are a tad snug, but a gentle tap with a rubber mallet gets them in place without stripping the threads. Once the table is up, the chairs and stools slot onto the steel frames without any extra bolts, which makes rearranging the layout surprisingly easy if you decide to host a cocktail hour instead of a sit-down dinner. Let's get into the practical strengths that matter after the set is in place. First, the sheer capacity. You can literally spread out a full family feast, a pizza tray, and still have room for a side salad. The combination of steel and poly rattan means the set holds up under the weight of dishes, grills, and even a few kids jumping on chairs without any wobble. Second, the low-maintenance aspect. Because the cushions are removable and the rattan won't rust, a quick wipe down after a rainstorm keeps everything looking fresh. Third, the aesthetic versatility. The black weave contrasts nicely with a green lawn or a stone patio, and the acacia tabletop brings a natural warmth that softens the modern vibe. On the flip side, there are a couple of hidden trade-offs you should know before you commit. The poly rattan, while weather-resistant, does tend to absorb heat. On a scorching summer day, the seat surface can become warm enough that you might want to keep a thin blanket or a small cushion underneath for longer sits. Also, the table's weight is notable. The acacia wood is solid, so moving it for deep cleaning or storage isn't a weekend project. If you're a renter who needs to disassemble and store furniture frequently, this could be a hassle. Finally, the set doesn't come with an